bucket of them sitting here, like I'm taking one of those book down. And all those, I have a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and they actually have some stuff that's misidentified. Whenever I saw some of the stuff, that's what it was used for. Okay.
Yeah, those little brass anvils, probably half the people in Bellefonte back in our day had them.
Yep. But anyway, from '89 till it closed, I was an instrument installer repairman. And I remember when I would spend the whole plant. I mean, this was a Ford shop, and I just just like he was talking about the knowledge. Now you have all the computer controlled stuff. We had men that do that, and the best part about it was you could walk in here with one of those off the walls, and they could sit down with a pencil and a tablet and sketch your solution. So I think the biggest thing that I thought when this place closed was the amount of knowledge, okay, that just isn't there anymore. I mean, it was hands-on. Everybody that worked in this place learned from the ground up. You know what I mean? You walked in here, we were a union shop, okay, and when you worked in, like when I walked in, the guys that were training me were in their 50s, okay, and you didn't have the opportunity to be, I'm just going to milk my way through this. It didn't work that way, okay? People took you under your wing, you know what I mean? They appreciated you, they helped you. I mean, we had jobs where they get done with their work for the day, they come over and help you. It was just a whole different type of operation. I mean, after this place closed, I worked a lot of other places till I finally retired, and never once did I come close to matching the camaraderie, or the sense of belonging, or lose the fear of looking over my shoulder all the time that I had here.
A lot of this was family. My father worked here, my grandfather worked here, my uncle was here, I worked here, my brother was here, my cousin worked here. And a lot of at that time, that's what got you in here was family. And then
you followed your dad where your dad was, basically. We come out of high school in the 70s and 60s. Because back then there was a lot of industry in this town, a lot of it.
Okay, I'm Scott Showers. I came to work here in security in 1978, and I was here till 1993, and I pretty much was in every department because I had to make the rounds through the plant, and you got to know people in every department, and then of course a lot of them you knew anyway because you went to school with them, or they were, like you said, they were family to you, or and they made just about anything you can think of. They make. You probably have all kinds of stuff that was made here in your house.
So the government.
Your faucets in your house were probably made here. The parts for them. Parts for fire extinguishers.
Do you golf? Did you ever use a ping putter?
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell you where the ping was put in it.
Really?
Right here. I have a brass one. Right after they cut it, so it goes ping when you hit it.
Tell us again about that real quick, if you want to.
Not this.
Yeah.
But
That was
Okay. How do you? It's basically, this area right here was known as the Ford shop. And the Ford shop kind of fed actually Tool and Die was the next plant. They designed the die that made this. Okay, and this was heated and stuck into a press. Okay, and then you had a die that was made to make that shape. Half of the die was in the bottom, half of the die was in the top.
and this thing was heated, so it was red hot.
Yep. And somebody, and you had a guy that would put in front of him. If he was running the trade, he'd say, "I want them stacked that way so I can grab them," or "I want them stacked that way." And he would reach in with a set of tongs, pull that out of the furnace when it came out on the tray, set it in there, hit a trip lever, it'd come down and it would go bang, okay, and it would hit. So that basic shape was there, but there'd be all the flash around the outside, the excess brass. And like he was saying about the blankers, and then you take it out of there, and it would go into another machine which was located right over here, and it had the perfect outline in their die. And this thing would come down one time, then you'd have a perfect part. All the round parts would be there. Then it would leave here and go across to the other side of the plant, where they'd have machines that had 8 stations in them. And they would chuck that piece in there, and it would drill that hole. Now, take in mind, this would be round now, okay? Would drill that hole, drill that hole, drill that hole, put the threads on there so you could fasten it on, put the threads on so you could put the faucet on it. And then once that was all done, it would go get chromed. And then it would go whoever the OEM was, the seller would then assemble it. They weren't assembled here. We just made the base part. The same thing like he was saying, like Aero-Quip hydraulic fitting stuff. We would make the fittings, okay? and then we'd ship them. And then we had some places that we actually they would send their packing in, and we would put our parts in their packing. Okay, so you could buy air-equipped compression fittings, and you'd be shipping them, and we would put them in there. They would send us boxes. That's how great this place was. The manufacturer wasn't even coming in. You were shipping their parts in their boxes.
Any place where the raw materials came in up there and they melted it down, and then they extruded it. You could even buy the extruded rods if you wanted to buy them. I mean, you could pull the stuff off the line anywhere you wanted to when it was going down through the plant and sell it that way. Till it got down to the end and the parts were finished.
This was started up in Plant 4. We'd come out of the press, it'd be 28-foot long rod. That shape, 28 foot long. And then they would cut it down to 8 feet long to fit in the cradles we had, to bring it down, to ship it down here. And then we come, the first store up here where they always have the food sale stuff, that's where they had the slug saws. And all those guys did was fill baskets with whatever shape they were running. And then we'd come on down through the process.
Have you fellas ever heard of Mann, Delta Faucet, Thomas? We made most of their stuff for all their plumbing fixture here. It was extruded rod, and it was a shape, it was straight, but the rods were 16, 18 foot long.
Yep.
That we sent out to customers for their own machining processes. And to see what come down through there, and you have never seen it before, how did they do that?
Just remember, everything starts out, like he said about that, everything, we have to extrude. We had 4 presses. We had a 5,500 ton press, we had a 750 press, we had a 2,500, which was the newest one of the bunch. We had a 2,750, okay? And every one of those presses did a certain thing. But everything started, like he said about the melting up there, okay? We had companies that would bring their, one thing that was cool about this place was, if we sent, like he said, sent those rods out to, say, Chase Manufacturing, they saved all that scrap and sent it back to us. And then we take that scrap, and 90% of the melts that we did up there weren't, copper's tin, aluminum, and lead, and is tin, lead, and copper, okay, to make brass, okay? Well, 90% of the time, all we had to do was correct the melt. We'd fill a hop, melt it. They would take a sample over to a lab, pour a little disc like that. They would take it over there, face it off in a lathe, do a spectrolysis on it, and then they say, you need to put 5 pounds of tin and 10 more pounds of copper in that, and it's got the alloy that you need. And then it would go from there. Because whenever you have brass, two things. Brass is a machinable metal and a malleable metal. To make it softer, you heat it. To make it harder, you compress it. That's nice. Brass, people don't underestimate what that is when you come brass. This is a forging brass, okay? But that's just the way, and that was all done by no college graduates.
I don't know if I don't know if they're still using low melt over on the other side or not.
Yeah, well,
low melt department over here.
Yeah, that's been here forever. I think it's still over there.
I think it's still
That
over
had
there.
some touchy stuff in it. I worked there for a couple of months, all the different alloys and mixtures in there.
There's metal over there that you could run the water out of your faucet hot and melt it. Basically one of the big things. Anybody, you ever look up at a sprinkler system and see a little. That's a low melt product. That's what melts out to let that open up.
Get to a certain temperature, it just melts and it opens a valve.
Look at a screw-in light bulb and how that's soldered on that filament. That's a low melt product on that there, because they do it at such a low temperature that it'll never get hot enough just by turning it into a lamp, but it'll solder that filament to that bulb base.
Yeah. Back in the 60s, I don't know if you fellows were around yet or not, but during the Vietnam War, this place, from up there down through, we worked 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for a couple of years during the war, just making fuse rings and timing devices, stuff for on artillery shells and bombs, and it was just continuous. We never stopped.
There used to be the military gave out E awards, and there was a flagpole out here, a big pedestal made out of standing stone, had the E award on, and a tractor trailer hit it after knocked it down. I don't know where that ever ended up at that plaque, but if you go up into Plant 4, there's a lot of equipment up there that has the asset numbers on it, property of the U.S. government. They provided the equipment that we needed to make their products, and then after the war was over, we inherited them, and we worked them over to our process. And some of those pictures you see over there, those square furnaces, the government put those in here. And then you can still go up there, I can still show you the plaque on the side, property U.S. government. And then we just attach an asset number to it, and we use it for our own products after that.
Well, that Maxit press they had down here, didn't the government buy that?
Yep. The one
They
press
had to
they had
tear
was,
the side out of the building over here to bring it in.
they lifted one end off of the railroad tracks because they couldn't, they brought it in on a railroad car and set it over here, off the railroad tracks. To get it in here, it heavy. And like I said, I just look at it, it's nothing that, to be ashamed of when it comes to, computers have changed things, okay? But I still look at it and I say, we have machines now where one machine replaced 10 guys that worked here, that kind of thing, okay? Or like in the tool, you can set it and go away from it, okay? But you gotta remember those guys all came off of farms. A lot of guys that worked here left here, went home and milked 20 cows. They were farmers. How many guys we have that still were gentlemen farmers on the side that still worked here? You know what I'm saying? And it was like, it was just a well-rounded place. I mean, there was the banner, and there were the guys that were the grumpies, and you had them everywhere. But whenever I worked, they filled us up. I think the highest when I was here, there was over 900 employees here. And I worked a lot of places after here, and I watched more people get hired and fired other places in 1 year than I did here in the whole 32 years I was here. It was just a different type, what I mean? Just, like I said, you wouldn't get people off the streets in today's time to do what went on here. I'm not afraid to say that. You would not get it.
I don't think I know of 6 guys to get fired out of here in the 42 years I was here.
Yeah. It was more or less, just get your shit together, basically. Sorry for the French, but-
They did their job.
Yeah, but
There
I'm
was
just,
a lot of dirt. I mean, a lot of smoke because you had furnaces in here. And of course,
noise
they
and
were
dirt.
graphite. You just
Like I said, if COVID would have hit this place, it would have been rebellious, because it'd be like Trump owned the place, you might say. That's people would there wouldn't have been any way. There'd be no way you could have walked into here in this place with the sweat and the dirt, you know what I mean, and wore any kind of mask or any kind of face shield, but people don't realize whenever you get in an industry like that, some of the stuff that you have to wear can be a hindrance. I mean, it can be I started here with hard hats and safety glasses and steel toes. Well, then it came with earplugs. I get metatarsal guards. I had to wear special clothes because I was getting around electricity, and stuff like that.
flame retardant clothes guys had to wear up in the melting room.
Pretty soon you had clean locker rooms and dirty. For years you just wore the clothes home. Now you have a clean. You walk into this room, take your dirty clothes off, take a shower, put the street clothes on, and walk out, and stuff like that. You'll probably talk to some of those guys. I've seen some of those guys over there in the melting room and know that. I mean, there was just many different environments in this place. Many. You never could come to work here and leave here and stop at a doctor's office on the way home. It wasn't going to happen.
And a lot of the guys up in Plant 4 that did the melting and that, they had to have blood work done, every couple months?
For lead
poison?
Yep.
But whenever they closed the doors here, I worked in the shipping department, so everything from upper end would come down into shipping to go out the door to, my understanding, it was Chase Brass that bought us out. And the people that were here at that point, looking at the equipment and everything, said, "This isn't right." He said, "You've got better equipment than we have. You've got more equipment. You have in-house tolling that makes all your tools for your place. We have to send everything out to get made." He said, "You should have bought us out, not us buy you out."
I was one of the guys that had to kind of stay and shut it down, which was pretty somber, okay? When I watched the amount of tooling that they just dumped in scrap buckets, guys' life work just get dumped because it was, first of all, it was old technology to a degree, but still, you know what I mean? It was gone. I mean, they just didn't need it, and that's, we didn't lose out because we were a bad company. We lost that because, this place was owned by the Mann Group. Okay, I mean, once it became part of a big conglomerate, okay, we started locally, but once it became, we didn't, you could tell there was going to be some big bill coming in because you shut down a half hour of your shift and sweep the floor so it looked good till they came through. You know what I mean?
Pritzker's out of Chicago.
The Pritzker brothers, which was part of the Mann Group, and actually in the long run too, that gave us a bigger pocket to operate out of too. Because to do some of the stuff like putting in a new 2,500 press that somebody's probably previously mentioned, or changed the procedure. That's where the money came from. I mean, it went, it was the guys, local workers, but the management was in Chicago.
Them guys in here drove anywhere from half an hour to an hour to get to work. So their 8-hour day is a minimum of 10 hours.
Carpools in Phillipsburg and Altoona and Lock Haven down that way.
Oatsdale and
Yeah.
Snowshoe Pine Glen.
You drive
It
today?
was a ride.
Picture it today, the price of gas. You all be parked down at Coldstream Dam, and 7 guys would park there, and 1 guy drive today. Tomorrow, you all park there, you got to drive today. You know what I mean? They even had a bus at one time that ran from Clinton County up here.
Yeah.
The guy had a bus drove on shifts.
They had one over in Penns Valley called the Dutchman bus. I don't know if you know Penns Valley people are called Dutchmen and that, but they had the Dutchman bus come over, and there was 30, 40 guys on it.
Yeah.
They did that for years.
The major employer in there.
Oh, my dad worked here. They had over 1,100 at one time.
I came here at 13.
And if you had to leave early to go for some appointment, you had to get early enough so you could park clear in the front. Because we parked here, it was nose to tail. You couldn't fit it in otherwise. You couldn't. I mean, you couldn't fit in. This is where you park on this shift, and it's nose to tail. If you were parked in the middle, you weren't getting out to the guy in front of you pulled out.
If he worked overtime, too bad.
You better hope everybody around you moved.
I was fortunate when they closed. I drew my unemployment to put me into early retirement. But there are a lot of fellows that was in age group of 50-some years old. They were looked down upon. People wouldn't hire them kind of their age. I know my brother and a couple of fellows was here.
I was 55, and I worked here 32 years, and I had 7 jobs until I got to 62. That's the work. And I actually got left go to another job, another company downsized after I got hired there. So I went through the job abolishment twice after 55 years.
Yeah. Lady up in university, or the laundry, hired a couple of our fellows out of here. She says, I'll take all these Cerro employees I can get. She said, if they work like you work, he said, I'll take you all.
Yep.
'Cause we knew how to work, but some of the people in here said we were lazy. And we got outside this place, they knew how the people in here worked.